lace, feminine, sexy, but always a lady. This is Gemini, a split personality, calm 1 minute, violent the next. This is Zap, strong, silent, the Terminator. You're looking at Nitro, cocky, explosive, and always aggressive. And this is Sunny, the all-American woman. These are the American Gladiators. And the events that they compete in are fast-paced, exciting, confrontational, visually interesting, action-oriented, and capable of producing emotional moments. From Universal Studios Hollywood, this is the American Gladiators.
Hi, I'm Joe Theismann, along with my co-host Mike Adamley on the American Gladiators. We're here in the control room where we've put together a show for you that shows the best of the American Gladiators. Some of the biggest hits, some of the most emotional moments that we've had on these shows. Contenders from all over the country have come together and compete for that ultimate prize of $10,000.
And Joe, as we go to the highlights of the first round, keep in mind that the format of the show was as follows. 2 male contenders, 2 female contenders, each earning points in a variety of different events. The winners advanced, the losers were eliminated. So right now, let's go and take a look at some of the great moments on the American Gladiators.
Craig Williams and John Chomsky were the first contenders to go up against our Gladiators. At 6'2" and 225 pounds, we knew there was some muscle behind Craig, but we had no way of expecting the manner in which Craig would introduce himself to the Gladiators in a game appropriately called Powerball. Oh, my goodness, Mike.
One of the many cosmic collisions we saw here on American Gladiators. We should note also that John Chomsky was no slouch either when it came to hitting people as well. I think both Craig and John proved that in this 45 seconds of non-stop action that both of them had plenty of stamina to go with their strength.
Yeah, but I don't think Nitro expected this kind of stamina. You can even see him wincing in the beginning. And then just an incredible collision. Of course, Craig Williams, a one-time fullback at Lafayette College. And, you know, he showed his skills again in the game of breakthrough and conquer, which includes a variation of one-on-one football. And it was truly a natural for Craig. There he just ran over Gemini. Now he jumps into the conquer circle against Malibu, which was really like a no contest. Malibu managed to stand up, but he went out of the circle in about 4 seconds.
Many of the female contenders who traveled to Hollywood for the American Gladiators also had extensive athletic credentials, but none like Brenda Hunt of Roswell, Georgia, a black belt in karate. This was Brenda's effort in the women's joust, and as you can see, she went against Zap, and she gave away a lot in height, strength, but not grit and determination.
Just a little girl, she throws that arm up victoriously. On appearance alone, Billy Wirth set himself apart from the other contenders. Underneath, however, this writer, actor, producer displayed as much will to win as any of his opponents. Billy rose to the competitive occasion in a manner similar to the rise of his career in Hollywood, and his athletic performances were right on target.
Billy seemed to have an uncanny knack for sizing up the situation at hand. He would take one look at these athletic events here on American Gladiators and quickly figure out what needed to be done.
He always went into it with somewhat of a game plan. He said his object was to try and get over behind the bush because he felt with the hand pistol he'd have the easiest opportunity to hit the target. Just dances around to set himself. There it was. He felt most comfortable with that little pistol, felt like he had the best shot at the target.
Now, when it came to the Eliminator, Billy Wirth's performance set standards on how to run this unique obstacle course. Billy didn't just run, he flew.
It's incredible. I mean, they don't even get a shot at him with the medicine balls. He zips across the commando ropes like he was born on them. Now a little swing for life. Of course, he played a vampire in Lost Boys, so that was easy enough for him to fly around.
Billy Wirth incidentally set a record time in the Eliminator of 20 seconds. Brian Hudson and Hosea Simmons' preliminary matchup paired two contenders from the city of Houston and also gave us one of the top 10 hits on the human cannonball. Here was Brian Hudson trying to take out Malibu.
Malibu seems to be all excited, little gyration with the butt and everything, got the hands in the air. This is one of the all-time favorites of mine. Whoa! Every time I see it, I still feel the same way. Malibu wonders where he is, what happened, got a little cut on the head. But if you're talking about hair, you're talking about physique, you're talking about, that's a full 10 in flight.
This is one of the few events that we saw where the contenders had a distinct advantage. Brian Hudson extends his legs and Malibu went flying. He also made a trip to the hospital where he received 5 stitches, and he came back to continue on American Gladiators.
In a preliminary battle between two women from Southern California, Adelaide McCarthy went up against Joanna Needham, the lone female motorcycle officer on the Los Angeles Police Force. Joanna showed us early that she could indeed use a weapon, even if it was just a pugil stick. The girls gingerly walk out on that platform. Like that impressed me as we watched each of the shows. They got more and more comfortable as they walked out with those sticks. In the beginning, everybody was a little tentative.
With a platform about 10 feet above the ground, Joanna Needham didn't have any fear of heights as she quickly knocked Zap off. And Adelaide McCarthy, well, I don't know if she was the best athlete in the competition, but she certainly had one of the most charming personalities, and so did that lady, Lace, our gladiator. And in the game of assault, she proved that she was one terrific shot.
It was a game of hit or be hit. She lined up behind the bunker, the safe area, with the rocket launcher to take a shot at the target.
Remember, all the contenders had to do was hit that target, and that's exactly what Adelaide did.
Almost got her head taken off in the process, but she did. Of course, she managed to show just a little bit of enthusiasm every time she participated. And as was the case in so many instances, this matchup came down to the final event, the Eliminator. And Joanna takes a little bit of a lead, but right here, she takes a flying leap and tries to destroy the wall.
Joanna, I guess, decided if she can't go over the barrier, well, she'll just go right through it. She went through that, and she went through the maze as well in fine fashion and won her preliminary matchup with Adelaide McCarthy.
And the battle between the two girls from Boston also came down to the Eliminator. Amy Ross goes flying over, lands on the mat. Nancy Petito following her. Amy Ross goes flying through it, and Nancy Petito does her best to get by Lace.
Amy won this little battle, but Nancy also advanced to the quarterfinals, and the two were to meet later.
A junior football college standout, Jason Wyatt, was an early favorite in the preliminary fights against Phil Carroll. But this 5'10" former U.S. Marine gave us a display of consistency in American Gladiators that made him very difficult to defeat.
And again, with his Marine Corps background, he knew how to fire weapons, and it paid off here in the game of assault. The thing that really amazed us about Phil Carroll is on the face of things, he doesn't look like a great athlete. He's not particularly muscular. He wasn't particularly quick, but he did everything just well enough to advance.
He knew exactly how to maneuver himself into position. I think the one thing that stood out with this guy is his tenacity. That was the one thing that was so evident with Phil, is he was so tenacious, he went after everything full bore.
Now, one of the most evenly matched preliminaries involved Christy Cotton and Tracy Phillips. Now, Tracy ended up being one of the top Powerball players out of all of our contenders, although it would appear that speed and not power helped Tracy accumulate high points, high scores in this contest.
I think the thing about Tracy is it wasn't the speed, it was intelligence, Mike. She would wait for the other contenders to go out, get occupied by a couple of the gladiators, and then just move from spot to spot.
Now tied at 260 points apiece, Tracy and Christy went head-to-head in the Eliminator to determine who would advance into the next round.
As both of them enter the maze simultaneously, they both run into the one big problem at the end. Whoa, what a shot by Zap, and there's Sonny. Now Christy manages to slide by, but Tracy, if she had finished 3 seconds later, would not have advanced, although she struggles and continues to struggle. She then continues to struggle and continues to struggle. She does manage to finish, but she had such a lead going in that she was able to advance.
Joe Rogers and Bernard Todd came to the American Gladiators from the Atlanta area, where Bernard recently finished a brilliant career as a high school running back. The youngest of all of our competitors, Bernard displayed all the right moves in the preliminary assault event as well. Although in this particular case against Malibu, he didn't have to use that many moves. He was dead on target.
I think a lot of people, they wanted to try and do it with the rocket, and he does. They wanted to try and do it with the rocket. Now, there was a case where he set himself up, and we talked to him before the competition. He felt like he wanted to get it done right there in the rocket and not have to run and get shot at.
Now, in the Eliminator event, Bernard did get the opportunity to turn on that speed that had made him his high school's track athlete of the year in 1989. He went flying across the balance beam, did the same on the commando lines.
Bernard he's the perfect size for this. Swings over, manages to move through the maze. Now, obviously, the biggest thing that faced our contenders all along was the Gladiator at the end. That time, Nitro couldn't stop him.
And in Nitro, we were talking about one tough customer. Joe Rogers' effort fell short, and once the dust had settled from Bernard's victory, we were able to determine which 16 contenders would advance to the quarterfinals.
Welcome back to Universal Studios Hollywood, the site of our American Gladiators competition. You know, the quarterfinals immediately gave us a rematch of the two big boys from Boston, Craig Williams and John Shumsky. And as it happened in the preliminaries, we got to see the sparks fly again in Powerball.
Well, not only did the sparks fly, but the Gladiators quickly realized how serious these contenders were, especially John and Craig. Not only did they take a pounding, but some of the paraphernalia, the equipment used in the game of Powerball, took a pounding as well.
They killed the cylinder. Just ran right over it. Craig Williams just pushed Malibu right over the cylinder. We have to go to tough equipment from now on. Thank heavens for the crews to put it back together. Malibu's just going to land on this thing and crush it. Good thing they came apart. Malibu just gets smushed into the ground by big Craig Williams.
Although it is not true that Malibu later filed for hazardous duty pay.
Right.
But once play was resumed, Shumsky, Craig Williams, and our three Gladiators went at it again.
The most exhausting of all the sports. Now, Craig Williams, the way he went after things was he'd lay a shoulder on a Gladiator and then just bulldog him right to the cylinder and figure this was the easiest way to go. There you go. He lays his shoulder in. Shumsky trying to use a little bit more finesse, a little bit more quickness.
When we talked about Craig's football background, Shumsky actually was a hockey player good enough to have been drafted by the St. Louis Blues, but he too demonstrated that he was fairly adept with his feet.
Craig Williams just stumbling around. Those big legs of his got real exhausted after a while.
But those legs came back fresh as Craig continued to flash his fullback form in Breakthrough and Conquer, a form that earned him top honors as a fullback at Lafayette.
Just sheer power. Now, Gemini does everything he can to keep him out of the end zone, but Craig Williams would not be denied. Craig Williams went on to defeat John Shumsky in their second meeting as well.
Well, Joe, Christy Cotton drew Brenda Hunt as her opponent in the quarterfinals. With Craig Williams, we knew what to expect when a former fullback met the Gladiators in Breakthrough and Conquer, but we were interested to find out what the result would be for Christy, a professional stunt woman. We quickly found out.
No power there, just a little bit of moves. Little giveaway, takeaway. Christy came at it a lot different than most of the women did. She used the speed to get by the Gladiators.
Now in the quarterfinals, we were able to witness the ever-so-serious Billy Worth take on lighthearted Hosea Simmons, both superb athletes. And with that long hair, Billy looks like a rock star, and in that case, he really rocked Nitro.
As they move into the Conquer ring, Billy sets himself against a much bigger Gemini. And this, I'd have to say, was the move of the competition. Just simply muscled Gemini over the top for a victory in the Conquer ring.
A move that Hulk Hogan would have been proud of. Now, although his manner was easygoing, Hosea Simmons displayed tremendous determination in competition. His crucial moment in American Gladiators came on his second effort in the human cannonball. The contender stood on a platform about 22 feet above the ground. And watch here. The seat actually slides through his legs, and Hosea paid a price.
His right hand went numb, and we'll see in the replay, his left knee will kick the seat up at an angle where he's unable to sit on it comfortably, so the entire weight of his body coming off that platform is on his hands and his arms, and as he swings through, he tries to hold on to himself, and he just can't quite do it and slides down.
And had Hosea let go of the rope, he might have not suffered some of the minor abrasions that he did, but true to form, he came right back, got on top of the pedestal, grabbed that rope, and knocked Malibu off.
As the contenders entered the final event, the Eliminator, Hosea was within striking distance of overcoming Billy Worth, but not in this event. Billy Worth continued to dominate in the Eliminator.
I don't know what kind of strategy a contender could use against Billy Worth, because Billy was more like Peter Pan out there, extremely comfortable working on the balance beam and swinging from the ropes, and got a little lucky, too, as he crossed the finish line without running into the Gladiator.
Now, Brian Hudson and Terry Moore were so alike in so many ways that some people had trouble telling them apart. I know I did. So when they were paired off in Powerball, it meant trouble for the official scorers as well, and for the Gladiators. Just a question of who's who now. Was that Terry, or was that Brian? Or was that Brian, or was that Terry?
Well, Joe, in point of fact, Terry and Brian became very good friends throughout this competition, although when the whistle blew, they were all business. Brian Hudson scored goals with great ease, and so did Terry Moore, and Terry showed everybody just how tough he was as he took on Malibu there.
Nice move against Nitro. And they just flew at the cylinders, both of them, just throwing their bodies around all over the place.
Well, how many times have we heard coaches, football coaches, tell us, give up the body, sell out the body? That's exactly what Terry Moore did, a football player at UCLA, and Brian Hudson did, a football star at Mississippi State.
When it was all over, both Terry and Brian finished the Powerball game with the same score, and although Brian would go on to win the quarterfinal matchup, it was unbelievable how these two became the closest of friends as they emerged on the American Gladiators.
Detroit's Ursula Henry always managed to smile at American Gladiators, even when she was paired against Joanna Needham in the quarterfinals. Now, in the preliminary round, Joanna showed us that she knew how to use a pugil stick, and in the quarterfinal assault, our audience witnessed Joanna's expertise with a pistol.
And Joanna continues just to roll out of the way. Some people run from station to station. Joanna figured the easiest way to do it was just to keep on rolling. The timing was so critical when they fired the cannon. Was it aimed directly at the target? Could they get their hand up without getting it hit?
And one false move, and it was all over for most contenders.
Oh, she manages to hit the target. And when you see the explosion in front of the Gladiators, that meant that the contender had beaten the Gladiator with that cannon that fired balls over 100 miles an hour.
Well, Phil Carroll once proclaimed, once a Marine, always a Marine. And in his quarterfinal matchup with Bernard Todd, this former Marine displayed his ability to use a variety of weapons against the Gladiators. First, the pugil stick. With the help of the trap door, Phil was able to eliminate Nitro.
Just throws his hands up, says, see how simple it was? Piece of cake. Now he gets into the assault competition, moving from station to station. Just had to feel real comfortable with those weapons on his shoulders.
And this was Nitro's chance to return the favor. Like an elephant, Nitro never forgot throughout this American Gladiators competition. Anytime the contenders did a number on him, Nitro was ready, willing, and able to return the favor. But not in this case, as Phil Carroll deadly with that rocket launcher.
Adelaide McCarthy and Tracy Phillips took their quarterfinal battle to the final event, the Eliminator. With the memory of being trapped in this event fresh in her mind from the preliminaries, Tracy knew she couldn't afford any mistakes against Adelaide.
Tracy was the first one up the ramp, and she was also the first one across the balance beam.
It seemed like the women took so much more painstaking time setting those big medicine balls in the cylinder.
And sometimes that caution cost the contenders. In this case, Adelaide McCarthy, she was knocked into the pit, and that allowed Tracy Phillips to win, but Adelaide refused to quit.
They take their time. Tracy just moving along methodically over the ropes, through the commando ropes, through the maze, just prancing right along and managing to miss the Gladiator, which had to be, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest relief for any of our contenders in all the competition, just knowing that they could get by the Gladiators without getting hit.
So, 8 contenders advance to the semifinals, and we'll look at their results when we come back.
Welcome back to the American Gladiators. Now let's move on to take a look at some highlights of the semifinal competition. Unfortunately, the first round was marred by some injuries. One to Joanna Needham, the other to Phil Carroll. But let's take a look at Joanna's first.
Well, Joe, the assault event usually meant big points for Joanna Needham, but in the semis, assault meant the beginning of the end for this LAPD motorcycle officer. Joanna had showed us previously that she liked to use the run and roll technique to avoid those tennis balls, but in this case, watch here, with her right arm she tries to break her fall and winds up bruising her shoulder.
In all the events, Mike, there's going to be some type of contact, and there was no way that Joanna could have avoided it in the next competition, which was the breakthrough and conquer. She exposes her shoulder to lace, runs right into her, and then lands on her back, and you can see as she lies there in tremendous pain, having separated the right shoulder and was unable to continue in the competition. You can see her move in. Now she puts her right shoulder, tries to get that left arm into Lace. She does get the right shoulder, and as she lands on her back, Lace's arm comes right underneath her right shoulder and just injures it too much for her to continue.
Now, it would have been easy for Joanna to call it quits, but what's amazing to me, Joe, is she got up under her own power after this tremendous shot she took from Lace and took on her shoulder, and she performed in the conquer ring. She refused to leave the competition.
One arm she went in against the Gladiator. Although she didn't win, she did finish the event. Now, Phil Carroll proved to be a study of grit and determination in the American Gladiators, but a fall during his semifinal Powerball competition seemed just too much for him to overcome. As he plants that right knee, it seemed to buckle under him, and he grabs on. Now, the amazing thing about Phil Carroll in this event, Mike, was he went back and finished. Now, this was 45 seconds, and this was early into it. So he had another 20 seconds at least to run around and limp and get it done, and he still did it.
And quite frankly, Joe, Phil was never the same after that injury, because in the human cannonball competition, Phil, because of that injured knee, went 0 for 3, even 0 for Malibu, which wasn't easy to do because Malibu was the one guy who got knocked off fairly regularly.
I think this is the only time that Malibu actually does stay up on the platform. And really, it was the fact that Phil went in with a half a leg, 1.5 legs. There was just no power left. You see him limp off. And as he limped off, he was unable to continue in the competition. So John Shumsky, the alternate, had to fill in for him. And once again, Shumsky was pitted against Craig Williams. But Williams had built up such a big lead in the cannonball, he never had to worry about looking back in the semis. He was off to the finals.
Williams was so dominant, in fact, that he was 12 for 12 in the human cannonball, and you had to wonder what was going through the minds of the Gladiators standing on that narrow platform as they gazed into the evil eyes of Craig Williams, who meant all business when he was on top.
We saw the Gladiators, Mike, try deflecting the blow, sliding off to the side, but the guy's so big. What do? Do you step up in front and meet him? Do you step off to the side? Do you try and deflect it? Nothing worked against Craig Williams.
What you do is you pay up on your life insurance premium.
Then you move on into Powerball, where he treats everybody like it's just a minor obstacle in his way towards the cylinder.
You've heard of Air Jordan. This is Ground Williams with the earthbound slam dunk. Craig Williams was quite a force out there.
He finally does beat his match, though. You know, we've talked about his size and his power. Now he lines up against Gemini in Breakthrough and Conquer. And really, you expected a much louder collision than we got. But Craig Williams just sort of pussyfooted right up and tried to finesse his way by Gemini. I guess he decided enough of a beating was enough.
But Williams did bounce back in the Conquer ring against the ever-dangerous Nitro to earn himself a spot in the finals.
It's just a question of brute force. Craig Williams gets down low and takes that 245 pounds of power. Manages to get thrown off by Nitro one time, but once he gets his hands on him and gets him going in the wrong direction, he just knocks him out of that 12-foot circle.
A housewife and a mother of one, Nancy Petito surprised many by advancing to the semifinals. Nancy, however, displayed great poise in building a lead over Joanna Needham prior to Joanna's injury. Nancy also saw what happened to Joanna when she went the direct route and decided to use a little finesse to score in Breakthrough.
Now she slides into the Conquer ring against Zap. Zap gets down real low, figured if she could lock into Nancy's leg, she wouldn't have a problem. But all Nancy had to do was roll and take her out. Now, what she does in the breakthrough part of this competition, she lines up to the far right side and lets Lace take the angle and then cuts back across in front of her, and it's just an easy score for Nancy Petito. When we come back, we'll take a look at the other group of semifinalists on the American Gladiator. Welcome back to Universal Studios Hollywood, the site of our American Gladiators competition. And with a spot in the men's finals on the line, Brian Hudson and Billy Worth battled in an intense semifinal. The Powerball event served as an indicator of the type of competition it would be.
Well, I think, Joe, there's a difference between confidence and cockiness, and the Gladiators mistook Billy Worth's confidence for cockiness, and they wanted to make him pay the price. They threw him out of bounds, they roughed him up, and Billy finally had enough. He decided to get back at Gemini.
Yeah, but he picked on the wrong guy. I mean, if you're going to pick on somebody, you don't pick on the biggest of the Gladiators. And it just got into heated competition. Gemini gets the best, pins Billy down. Billy's still looking for him. As you said, you know, we talked about the fact that this is very heated competition. These guys are playing for $10,000. They take it very seriously. And this is what got Billy Worth all upset. He gets by Nitro, manages to lose him, and then Gemini comes over, plants a forearm in the nose, and then slams him into the ground. He certainly didn't like it at all. And as he got up, he just is going to let Gemini know what's going on. He slams the ball in the back of the head. Well, Billy Worth was undaunted after this, continued to move along, tried, and he thought, well, what the heck, I'll just go on and score. Gemini's not going to be around. As he turns around, Gemini just pursues him and knocks him off into the nickel seats, into where the cameramen are. Billy trying to fight his way back, can't do it, and then it just became a matter of brute strength over desire.
It typified Billy's performance throughout American Gladiators. He would never back down from anybody. He was tough, he was ready to go in each and every event.
There you see the bruises on his face, and you know, as heated as it gets sometimes, he walks up and gives Gemini a forearm. Used to shake hands, used to slap high fives, now to give each other forearms. And
doing the American Gladiator version of the Bash Brothers.
That's right. After the slight delay, they resumed the competition, and Billy Worth was still trying to outrun Gemini. It seemed like no matter where he turned, Gemini now was going to mirror every move he made.
Brian Hudson took advantage of the double teaming on Billy Worth and was able to score, although he took a pounding as well.
Nitro just wasn't going to back off from anybody. He sent Brian Hudson into the cheap seat, sent Billy Worth down to the floor, and everybody seemed like, hey, the best way to go is not after Gemini and Nitro. Let's go after Malibu, the big guy with the blonde hair.
And remember those gassers we used to run where the coaches would run you relentlessly into the ground, 45 seconds, 45 seconds? That's exactly what Powerball was like. These men were spent.
I'm glad the days are behind me, I can tell you that. There's Brian Hudson. He just decides that he wants to put a few moves on Malibu. They sort of figured out in this competition which one was the easiest they thought they could handle. And I don't know whether they even made the right choice. Although he does manage to score, Malibu's going to take him again out of bounds for a long ride. When you got down to the semifinals and the final competition, the Gladiators just rose to the occasion and became more intense themselves.
And the contenders were beginning to feel the effects of not just Powerball, but all the events here on American Gladiators. They were battered, they were bruised. This surface here in Powerball, much like AstroTurf, it's hard, and when you hit it, you have a bruise that remains there for several days.
It's just incredible to me that Billy Worth, as much as he was thrown down, he still managed to bounce back. And undaunted, he just came back in the assault competition and wins it. Got his headband fixed.
The thing that nobody realized about Billy is what an athlete he was, a 7-foot-high jumper, a man of extraordinary quickness.
Does all his own stunts in the motion pictures that he stars in.
Pretty handy with a hand pistol.
Yeah, you can just see the look of discouragement. He knew darn well that he was in for a heck of a run against Brian Hudson. Now, Brian moves through the breakthrough part and just floated right into the end zone like it was nothing at all. Now he's up against Malibu and just wings him right out of the conquer circle.
And because he was successful in both breakthrough and conquer, he won 100 points and was able to build up a sizable lead on Billy Worth, a lead that he would need going into the last event, the Eliminator.
Here in the breakthrough part, he just sort of sets up the defender, for lack of a better description. The Gladiator does a nice job of putting a move on Nitro. Now Nitro had some football experience, but he was no match for Bryan. Well, it's just a case of the offense beating the defense, Mike.
Well, Bryan was able to take to the offensive again in the event called Human Cannonball, the event where the contenders seemed to have the clear-cut advantage. Gemini stood tough, but not tough enough. So, 1 down, 2 to go. Nitro was up next.
I always felt like Gemini was the most difficult to knock off the platforms. Although Nitro, he's a lower, smaller guy, gets his rear end down. You see him bend down low, using different techniques, tries to deflect the blows, but it didn't stop Bryan.
Bryan Hudson got in the tuck position and made it 2 for 2. 1 man to go.
You can see him wince a little bit. This competition, the Band-Aids on the shoulders, wraps around the arms, both contenders and Gladiators beat up at this point.
Bryan almost had the hat trick until that mistake right there. He got hung up on the platform. It took away some of his momentum, and Malibu, not usually a force in Human Cannonball, was not knocked off.
You'll see him come off. You see his heels just catch on the lower part of the platform. He gets up good and high, and as he comes down, his feet hit. You see his knees bend hard, and most of his momentum was taken away.
Well, Bryan took a 60-point lead into the Eliminator, the equal of 12 seconds. Bryan, however, was going up against Billy Worth, the record holder in this event, and Billy was off and flying again.
Well, he was fine until he hit the commando ropes, and then he just slipped. Bryan, moving fast and consistently, manages to stay right on the heels of Billy Worth. And Billy turned in a tie of his fastest time, 20 seconds, but Bryan Hudson finished right behind him, and it wasn't enough for Billy Worth to overcome him and advance to the finals. There you see Billy get across the balance beam. I mean, the medicine balls hardly get into play. He just flies across. Right here is where he loses it. Right there, his foot slips off the rope. He was going to take a pretty good lead over Bryan at that time, but the struggle on the commando ropes stopped Billy from picking up enough time to overcome Bryan Hudson. As Bryan breaks through the wall, he realizes that Billy Worth is finished ahead of him and will win the Eliminator, but he has to move quickly to the finish line to make sure that he can win the overall competition and advance to the finals, and that he does.
Christy Cotton defeated Tracy Phillips in the preliminary round, but Tracy turned in her top performance to turn the tables in the semifinals. This was breakthrough and conquer. Tracy going against Zap. Zap giving her a pretty good shot, but not nearly good enough as her mom, Linda Yeager, looked on.
There, Tracy just decides to move up the field. Now, again, she starts to one side, gets Zap moving, and cuts right across. We saw Nancy Petito do this as well. Take the long portion of the field, get the Gladiator moved over, and then just sort of angle your way in, and she does. And when we return, we'll see which of our championship contenders takes home the title of American Gladiator Champion.
Welcome back to the American Gladiators. After 3 rounds of competition, 4 contenders advanced to the finals to see who would be crowned the American Gladiators champion. Both competitions came down to the final event, and we pick up the action with the women's Eliminator.
After 5 events of the women's competition, Nancy Petito with just a 30-point lead over Tracy Phillips. A very easy amount to be made up in the Eliminator.
And it all comes down to this event. The Eliminator, which starts on a ramp. Those 2 balls have to be rolled to the top of the ramp, and from there the contenders will try to work their way across a balance beam.
As they get across the balance beam, while the medicine balls are being swung at them, they move across some commando ropes, holding on to the one above them, walking across another one, then jump onto the swing for life. They come over that platform wall, land on the mat, and start into the maze.
And at that point, Joe, they have a choice to make which corridor to take. If you pick the correct one, you'll miss the Gladiator standing at the other end and cross the finish line scot-free. And again, it's a race against the clock. Obviously, the faster you can whip through the Eliminator course, the more points you can earn.
In the blue lane from Houston, Texas.
And there you see what Tracy Phillips needs to do, a win by 6 seconds, and she will be the winner.
And that's a very, very small amount of time to make up, because at any point in the Eliminator, you can be knocked off a beam, you can miss a rope, you can miss a cone, and be penalized 5 seconds.
It's the kind of event where you can take a chance and really go after it, but if you're too aggressive,
you wind up losing the whole kit and caboodle.
Now of the two, Nancy Petito and Tracy Phillips, Nancy has turned in the faster time in the eliminator course, 33 seconds, back in that quarterfinal round. Tracy will have to try to turn the tables here. Nancy with the red ball, Tracy with the blue. Up the ramp they will go. This is it, the final event.
They're close enough for this one to decide everything. Who's going to be the champion of the American Gladiators?
Tracy the first across the balance beam, and now on to the commando line she goes.
Untouched. Remember, she's got to make up 6 seconds now. Nancy Petito struggles and holds on to the rope to try and save herself.
Joe, this is going to be mighty close.
Tracy over the wall. Now she's got to move through. She's just got to hope that there's not a gladiator there to tie her up. She fires through. It's Zapp, but she manages to blow right by her.
Here comes Nancy.
And here comes Nancy. She runs into Lace, and she goes through Lace. Both women running into the gladiators at the end.
Now the question, did Tracy Phillips win by 6 seconds?
Well, if she does, Mike, it's going to be right here where she gets the advantage. She starts across the beams. Not a medicine ball touches her. She gets to the commando ropes fairly easy, misses with her first step. Nancy Petito just runs into all kinds of problems. She hangs on, so that's going to be a penalty, but doesn't go into the pit. Now she, too, heads for the commando ropes, and then finally blows through the end where the gladiators just waiting for him.
Both Zapp and Lace had a chance to decide the outcome here, depending on who held up the contender the longest. Tracy Phillips manages somehow to get by Zapp, despite taking that shot with that pad that Zapp is armed with. Was Tracy good enough to win? Here's the public address announcer with the final result.
Ladies and gentlemen, for Nancy Petito, 36 seconds, one penalty of 25 points, a total of 95 points, for a grand total of 430. For Tracy Phillips, 32 seconds, 140 points, and a winning total of 445 points.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you what. You have to have been here throughout the quarterfinals and the semifinals and now the finals to appreciate what these women went through here on American Gladiators. Nancy, I'll start with you first. To be in the lead, going into the final event, and then to see it slip away, doing really a silly mistake on your part.
I did. I went in there and I had the lead, and so I thought, well, I'd try to just play it cool and get over, and I grabbed the ball, stupid mistake, and it's history.
It probably won't sink in until a little bit later on tonight, but now that you've had a chance to digest what has happened and the 6 events and this whole 2 weeks that you've spent on American Gladiators competing as a contender, what's it all meant to you, do you think?
The mental stress of this whole thing has been unbelievable. You just can't even imagine how bad it was. The physical part of it wasn't as bad as it looks, but just gearing yourself up mentally every day, and it was, 2 weeks full of work. It was really difficult.
And it's not the easiest thing in the world to become friends with, say, someone like Tracy and then have to compete against her.
Yeah, Tracy and I and then another girl came pretty friendly. I tried to cool it down in the last days when I knew I was in competition with her, because it's just so hard to be friendly with somebody and compete at the same time. But she did a great job, and she won, so congratulations, Tracy.
Nancy, congratulations to you. You gave us a great performance and something we'll remember here on American Gladiators. Nancy Petito. Well, Tracy, you've been speechless almost every time I've talked to you in post-event interviews. What about now? You've won it all.
Oh, I'm so excited. I wanted to go to school so bad. And now I can.
What do you think the folks back in Houston, Texas will think about all of this? Let it out. It's okay to cry. Believe me, it's okay.
I'm going to be excited.
Okay. Tracy Phillips, the winner here on American Gladiators, and believe me, folks, these are tears of happiness. She did a fantastic job. Way to go.
Tears of joy from Tracy Phillips, a 15-point victory in the Women's American Gladiator competition, and she wants to use that money to go back to school. Now it's the men's turn. 60 points separate Craig Williams and Brian Hudson. Not a very large amount, Mike. We've seen it when you come down to the last event, the Eliminator.
60 points equates to 12 seconds in the Eliminator. That's what Craig would need to win by to beat Brian Hudson.
And
Boy,
in the
don't
red
you and I
lane
both know the
from
size of the
Houston,
butterflies
Texas.
in these guys' stomachs?
Wow.
I mean, you can just see the look on Brian's face. You know what's going on his mind. Should I play it cautious? If Craig manages to get out there by a certain amount, I'm going to lose it all, and I just don't want to leave it on the course.
And again, by comparison of the two, Brian Hudson has had the faster time on the Eliminator course. Brian with the red ball, Craig Williams with the blue.
So many different places where one mistake can cost you a number of points.
But Craig Williams, the first over the balance beam, now in the commando lines, which give him a lot of problems because of his size, because of his weight. And Brian Hudson has taken the lead, regained the lead. Across the barrier he goes, and now which corridor does he pick? He opts for the right one. There's no Gladiator there. He crosses the finish line. Craig Williams knows he is beaten, but he has come too far to quit at this point. Bang! Right over Malibu he goes. He lets out a giant roar and crosses the finish line. But there you have it, Brian Hudson, 500, Craig Williams, 395.
Ladies and gentlemen, our winner is Brian Hudson.
Craig, you told me this morning that when you surveyed the competition at the beginning of American Gladiators, you didn't think you or Brian would be the finalists. And I think it's clear to everybody here, including the Gladiators, that the two men that deserved to be most in the finals were Brian and you. And now that it's all over, what's it all meant to you?
Well, I tell you, Brian and I, we really poured our hearts into this competition. We tried our best. We supported each other. And, you know, we just pushed each other when we had to. And to me, it means, you know, that I had a chance to compete again, you know, get active. And that's what I love. And I'll always love to do it, and I'm glad I had the chance to do it.
Brian Hudson, how do you spell relief?
Into the competition, I tell you what, it's going to take my body a while to rest and relax, but the money sure will help.
In this last event, the Eliminator, were you aware that early on Craig was ahead of you?
Yeah, I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and I said, "Oh man, the big man's scooting on." And I just didn't want to be dumb on the. I knew I had a little lead, and I didn't want to be dumb on it, but yet I didn't want to be too cautious and get knocked into the pit.
Brian, you've had many cherished athletic moments in your life. Where does this rank, do you think?
Well, it ranks pretty high because I don't think anybody can realize how tough this thing is and how hard everybody competed. We got close, and then some people went home, and so the last couple of weeks it's been real tough, but it's been a great experience that I'll always remember.
Okay, well, we'll remember your performance here on American Gladiators. Great job, Brian. Brian Hudson, the men's winner on American Gladiators.
From the thousands who came to the Gladiator tryouts, Tracy Phillips and Brian Hudson have proven their athletic superiority. They've each won $10,000, and they'll be back in May for the grand finals to face the winners from the second round, which will determine the male and female Gladiator of the Year and win the grand prize worth $20,000.
Well, Michael, we've crowned the champions in the American Gladiator competition, but there are certain things that just stand out in my mind about all the different events. To me, it was the shot that Malibu took. That first initial hit as he stood up on the pedestal in the human cannonball, and Brian Hudson really just sent him into next week.
Well, Joe, I remember the emotion of Amy Ross, the tenacity of Phil Carroll, and the power of Craig Williams. Okay, so it wasn't the Super Bowl or the World Series, but the contenders, much like Walter Mitty, competed like it was, putting their heart and soul into each and every event. And we'd like to salute each and every one of them.
For all of us at the American Gladiators, for Mike Adamle, I'm Joe Theismann saying goodbye.
Universal Studios, Hollywood. This is American Gladiators. Selected from a national athletic search, 22 men and women have come to Hollywood to wage battle against our force of American Gladiators for a single honor, to become American Gladiators champion. And now, here are your American Gladiators. Nitro. Lace. Blade. Gemini. Titan. Zap. Gold. Laser. Your American Gladiators. The host for American Gladiators, Mike Adamle. And his co-host, Todd Christensen.
Glad you could join us for this second edition of American Gladiators, and what you're about to see, if you haven't already, is bound to get your adrenaline flowing. You know, our contenders, they're very intrepid, and they will battle it out with some awesome physical specimens. And Todd, our contenders have come to California with big ideas and big dreams. But the Gladiators want to let them know that this is going to be no day at the beach.
No, you got that right. It's no picnic. And, you know, I got to be honest with you, Mike. I was surprised. I thought I was going to see a bunch of frustrated athletes, but these people are anything but frustrated.
You're very right about that. All right, let's meet the contenders for today's preliminary round.
Please welcome Zimbob Schwartz from Columbia, Missouri, a recent graduate from the University of Missouri with a degree in industrial engineering. This is Susan Farwell from Los Gatos, California, a strength coach and assistant rowing coach, married for 7 years. In the men's competition, please welcome Richard Seymour from Santa Barbara, California, a construction worker and former U.S. Marine Corps boxing champion. And his opponent, J.C. Love Jordan from Sauk Village, Illinois, an auto insurance claims representative, married for 7 years and a father of 2.
Contenders, give it your best shot and best of luck. Todd, I'll see you later.
All right.
This is how our show works, in case you haven't seen it before. 20 men and women, our contenders, will compete in 7 very different events. The contenders who amass the most points after those 7 confrontations will advance to the next round. Now, their ultimate goal, to make the championship final, and at the end of that rainbow, a pot of gold. $10,000 in prize money, and the title, Grand Champion. Coming up now, the first event, and here's Todd to tell you all about it.
Thanks a lot, Mike. A new addition to the American Gladiators is the event entitled The Wall, where the objective will be to scale this 32-foot edifice, where if successful, this will be your vantage point. But the contenders will not be competing alone. 10 seconds after they begin, 2 gladiators start up after them in an attempt to drag them off the wall. Both contenders have a maximum of 2 minutes in which to reach the top. The contender who gets there first receives 10 points, and if the second contender also reaches the top, she gets 5 points. If neither contender reaches the top, the one who advances furthest gets 5 points. Off the wall, no points.
A look now at 23-year-old Zimbob Schwartz. She draws gold, one of the 2 new female gladiators this year. Zimbob's opponent, Susan Farwell, and she'll be going against Zap. Zap, a veteran gladiator, and this is the view that Zap will have from her helmet-mounted camera.
All right, ladies.
Once again, this is a near vertical climb, 32 feet, and both the contenders and the gladiators have been rigged with protective harnesses.
In the background, we can hear referee Bob McElwee giving it a start. And you know, Mike, as I watch him go up, it appears that they are a little bit tentative. Maybe it is just the newness of the event.
Zimbob in the blue uniform, Susan Farwell in the red. Susan appears to have a slight lead. This can be 2 minutes of anaerobic health. Hand strength is very important here.
Right there, the gold fell off. Now Zimbob has a free rein. I wonder if she understands that she's all by herself up there, because now she doesn't have the pressure of gold on her heels.
Susan Farwell on the right of your screen, almost at the top, but Zap very, very close to pulling her off.
Susan better hustle, because Zap's right there. And if Zap can just get a hold of her ankles and use her whole weight, that could be it. There it is. That's exactly what happened. Zap used her strength to pull her right off.
So close, but yet so far.
Mike, now Zimbob is all alone, heading to the top. 10 points for the taking. She can take her time, and that's exactly what she's doing right now. She's taking her time, trying not to make a mistake. A sure 10 points ahead of her. Oh, tough break. It appeared that she put too much pressure on her left hand as she was reaching up. Here in the replay, we'll get a chance to see it. She's making her way up slowly but surely, and right there her left hand gave way. And as a result, Susan will take an early 5-point lead in the competition. Now here's Mike with Susan.
Susan, your effort was proof that sometimes you don't have to get to the top to get over the top, so to speak. You did earn some points by being the highest on the wall.
That's right. I earned, well, half the points. I earned 5 points, so that's 5 towards the total that I need. But Zap's fast. I thought I had it. I was only about one rock from the top, and I thought for sure I was going to be up and over. And I don't know, she must have lunged or jumped up. She's real quick. She caught me.
So after one event, Susan Farwell earns a hard 5 points to take an early lead over Zimbab in the competition.
And Todd, the men are now set to go, ready for their competition. When we return, they'll tackle the wall for their first event. Welcome back to Universal Studios Hollywood, where the wall awaits our men. The contenders, J.C. Love Jordan, an outstanding high school and college football player. He'll be going against Nitro, the cocky veteran gladiator. J.C.'s opponent, Richard Seymour, an aspiring Olympic boxer, and he draws Gemini, another one of our veterans and a crowd favorite here. And Todd, this is an event because Gemini and Nitro possess so much body mass that it may work against them and in the favor of the contenders.
You know, that's funny, Mike. You think of all the times that you spend in the weight room trying to get this great strength and this power and this mass, and all of a sudden an event like this where quickness and agility and mass are the direct antithesis of what you want to do, you're exactly right. I think this is going to be a hindrance not only to the contestants, but these big, strong gladiators as well.
And a slight change from the women's wall. In the men's event, the contenders are given a 15-second head start, not a 10-second one. J.C. Jordan in the red, Richard Seymour in the blue, and J.C. Jordan almost at the top.
Yeah, ooh, right there. That was good hand strength. He must have been doing his grips because it looked like that his feet came out, but he was able to hang on to the hand grooves right there, and as a result, he's going to win this event, Mike.
Great save by J.C. Love Jordan.
You know, Mike, while the crowd is cheering, it is significant that Richard continues because while J.C. is going to accrue 10 points, Richard wants to finish and get 5 points because, you know, it's a long competition. These points can add up near the end. And there he is, Mike. You must have seen every Rocky movie, huh?
Every single one. So after one event, J.C. with the lead. Susan Farwell leads our women's competition 5-zip as they prepare for their next event. We call it Powerball. Now, this is a 45-second contest where contenders compete from alternate buckets in an effort to score in one of 4 single-point cylinders, or a center cylinder worth 2 points. Now, Powerball, it's a game of speed, it's a game of endurance, and it's an opportunity for our contenders, Zimbab Schwartz and Susan Farwell, to rack up some much-needed points.
But, of course, it's not as easy as all that. You can have quickness, you can have strength, you can have agility. But there are going to be some people that are going to try to stop you. 3, count them, 3 American gladiators.
Their names, Lace, Gold, and Blaze, and if there is such a thing, Todd, I think the gladiators have developed a good-natured, healthy malice for our contenders, Zimbab Schwartz and Susan Farwell. Referee Bob McAway blows the whistle in this game of Powerball underway. Susan Farwell with the first goal.
Zimbab on the other end struggling a little bit as Blaze has her in the clutches. She's trying to get in the middle. Oh, but takes a nasty spill right on her elbow. Looked like that her knee twisted around one of the 1-point cylinders there, Mike.
Blaze, one of the 2 new female gladiators this year, and she has quickly demonstrated that she is going to be tough.
But you know, Mike, it isn't just the gladiators that are tough. We're back to the competition now, and it appears that Zimbab is acting like nothing's ever happened. But she has a lot of catching up to do.
Susan just scored there, and Zimbab got the rough treatment from Gold that time. She's very resilient, though. She's back on her feet and continuing to go here in Powerball.
Unfortunately, resilience doesn't score points, Mike. She's got to get some balls in the cylinder here.
This time, Gold takes her down again, and Zimbab appears to be hurt again.
We're going to stop the competition. You know, it appeared to me right there, Mike, that when she fell down on the ball. And it appears that she might have either bruised a rib or possibly she lost her wind. I hope that it's the latter so she can continue. Right here we see Gold on top of her using her body, and she has to take all the weight of herself and Gold right on her solar plexus with that ball. That is painful.
But once again, Zimbab is back on her feet and ready to go. Referee Bob McAwee restarts the match, and quickly Zimbab scores in the center cylinder. That's worth 2 points.
You know, despite her physical difficulties, it appears that she's come back with some renewed determination and skill as well. That's the second one in the middle. And as I'm looking around the cylinders right now, by my unofficial count, I've got Zimbab ahead 8-5. Now here's Mike with the winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, does this woman deserve a standing ovation or what? Up on your feet. Zimbab, you were down for the count not once, but twice, and I don't think anybody in this audience, including myself or Todd, thought you were going to get back up again.
Well, I bruised my hip in practice, and I just kept slamming myself down, and it really does hurt when you hit it right off, but it's fine if I just walk it off.
Somehow you had something in reserve because you saved your two best goals for last right in the center cylinder, and that earned you a lot of points.
I knew I had to catch up because Susan's beat me pretty bad, so I thought I better get to the middle a few times. It was open, so I'm definitely not going after her.
Okay, well, you get yourself to the trainer, too. I think you're going to need a little bit of ice. Zimbab Schwartz, great job. Wow.
Great job indeed, as Zimbab's persistence has won her the Powerball competition by the score of 8-5. And now after two events, she trails by a mere 10-8 to Susan Farwell.
Well, Todd, now it's the men's turn to play Powerball. And to refresh your memory, J.C. Love Jordan leads Richard Seymour 10-5 after one event. And there's the trio they'll be facing, Gemini, Titan, and Laser. And this should be a tough battle for Richard Seymour and Love Jordan because all of our Gladiators have a very, very strong football background.
Not only that, but those big bodies really take up a lot of room out there, Mike, and it's tough to get in a situation where you're going to score with all those bodies in the way.
Gladiators would like nothing better than to pitch a shutout against these guys. So far, they are doing it.
Sweet move there by JC. He showed those moves that made him a prized high school halfback. It appears though that Richard's struggling. A lot of the skills that he utilizes in boxing don't necessarily translate to getting the balls in the buckets out here.
Gemini takes him down. You can see the clock in the corner of your screen. That's how much time is remaining.
You know, timing is an issue here as well because of the fact that if you can time it to where you only have one guy on you, then you can score a lot easier than you can if you're getting double teamed, quite obviously.
And Todd, it is very evident that both men running out of gas here.
And running out of time as well.
And that's it, and J.C. Love Jordan has won this Powerball match. He scored the only goal of the game.
You know, as we sit here and we get a chance to look at J.C., who would have thought that only one goal in this particular contest would have been enough to be victorious? Sweet feet right here where he makes his move, gets back a little bit, puts in the bucket.
So after two events, J.C. Love Jordan now with an 11-5 lead over Richard Seymour. There's more action ahead on the American Gladiators, including human cannonball and something we like to call the joust. Coming up next, the game of hit or be hit. It's called assault. Welcome back to Universal Studios Hollywood with more of the American Gladiators. After two events, this is how the women stand. Susan Farwell with a 2-point lead over Zimbab Schwartz. Event number 3, the assault. And in this event, the contender has 60 seconds to hit a target located above the Gladiator, with weapons positioned at 5 different safe areas. At safe area 1, a crossbow. At safe area number 2, a rocket launcher. At safe area number 3, a cannon. And if the contender is not successful at hitting the target by this point, he or she can move on to safe area number 4, where a pistol is standing by. And then one final last chance at safe area number 5, where there are 3 hand grenades.
Mike, we get a chance here to see Lace manning the controls of the gun, and from her vantage point, she gets to see the entire area. The telestrator indicates in what direction Zimbab Schwartz is going to have to start. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, she is going to have to avoid tennis balls which will exceed 100 miles per hour.
Now, if the contender hits the outer portion of the target located above the Gladiator, it's worth 7 points, a bullseye worth 10 points.
Bob McElwee stops the competition. Apparently, Zimbab was hit someplace, as we'll get a chance to view it here on the replay. Right about this point, she takes a leap, and you see where the telestrator points to her heel. This is where the ball just nicks her, much to the pleasure of Lace.
And Lace, as we have seen in American Gladiators past, never, ever misses. Well, once in a while. Susan Farwell's turn.
Susan's going to utilize her quickness. I think actually being a little bit shorter is going to be a help because there's a lot less to hit out there, Mike.
Those safe areas don't afford all that much protection. She misses wide there. And now she'll really head to some wide open spaces.
Everybody seems to be having problems aiming the crossbow. Right here, she's got the rocket launcher. She's got it aimed a little bit high, it appears. Everyone seems to think that it's going to come down, but in fact, these things are very powerful weapons.
Remember, the contenders are working against the clock. Susan Farwell running out of precious time.
You know, you can score 5 points if you make it all the way through without getting touched, but with 16 seconds and counting, it doesn't look like Susan's going to be able to do that. She's going to have to get a lucky shot here at the next safe area.
She almost got nicked there.
There is a running clock that is visible to the contenders, but evidently Susan hasn't been following it, as right here she runs out of time. She's obviously disappointed as she disgustingly throws the grenades away. Early in the competition, this was her best shot at getting some points, but it's well off to the right, as it shows it's not quite as easy as it might appear.
Susan, I know you're very disappointed with yourself, but you really shouldn't be, because the contenders have had a bad day here in Assault.
Well, it's been a tough day, but I was just poor on that event. I ran out of time, and I should have shot and moved. Took some time.
Hey, better luck next time around.
So with neither woman scoring in the assault event, the score remains Susan 10 and Zimbob 8 after 3 events. On the men's side, J.C. Love Jordan has an 11-5 lead over Richard Seymour, who is now poised to begin the men's version of the assault. He's looking for a chance to get ahead now, and there's Gemini manning the gun, and Mike, it appears to me that the Gladiators really enjoy shooting that gun. They want to get those contenders.
Well, Todd, this is the one event where there's no physical contact between the Gladiators and contenders, so Gemini can just stand up there and fire away.
Richard using some quickness to get away, and a somersault at gymnastic class is really paying off. Let's see if his aim pays off as he takes a shot right on the shield. A little bit low. He's poised to get across. Oh my goodness! Look at this!
Move.
It's unbelievable! He's seen every episode of SWAT, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe it?
Remember, he's working against that clock. He had 60 seconds when he started, now under 20.
You know, Mikey's going to have to take some serious aim here, get a chance to get a good shot, because he only got 2 more opportunities in less than 15 seconds. He got it! There it was. Got a 7-pointer. And there's the pyrotechnics that signify success. And there's a happy Richard Seymour. Here on the replay, we see that he takes his time, and there it is, right in the red area. Good for 7 points in the competition.
Richard, you've rekindled my faith in the contender shooting ability. Nicely done.
Thank you. Boy, I'll tell you, those balls, they are moving.
Where in your mind did you start thinking that the somersault technique might be a good move? I mean, that cost you a lot of time and exposed your body a lot.
Yeah, I did. I don't know. I used a rope-a-dope in the ring. I thought I'd use a roll-a-dope out here, see if it worked.
It looked good.
It worked.
So style points for the roll-a-dope, but watch here, Richard, in trying to avoid that tennis ball, nearly sprained his ankle. There's the first somersault, and watch, he'll change the axis of this particular roll, but he got back on his feet, fired away, and earned 7 points. Next up, J.C. Love Jordan, and he'll have to match Richard to stay in the lead. And once again, drawing the shooting honors for the Gladiators, Gemini.
Ready? Mike, I'll be anxious to see if J.C. can also match Richard's style points as he heads to the crossbow. He seems pretty cool as he cuts across, like nothing's going to hit him. Holy cow, right off the bat, he gets a 7 points. Good shooting.
Just 13 seconds off the clock, too. Very quick work of Gemini. I don't think Gemini believes it.
There's JC. He seems pretty sure of himself. He's not surprised at all. He's aimed right in there, took his time, hit the target, first shot.
I saw that little wink in your eye. This is J.C. Love Jordan, and the J.C. stands for, it has to be, at least in this event, just cool. You barely broke a sweat out there.
Well, it's something I was looking forward to. The crossbow is my better shot. If I didn't get it then, I don't know what I would have been able to do then.
So both JC and Richard score 7 points in the assault, and so after 3 events, the score is JC 18 with Richard 12. Now Mike and I put on our sweats to give you a bird's eye view of our next event, Human Cannonball.
This is not how Johnny Weissmuller got his start as Tarzan, but it is our next event. It's called the Human Cannonball. Now, Todd and I are wearing these helmet mount cameras so you at home can see what the contender sees and what the gladiator sees.
So all I can say to you right at this point, Mike, is Bon voyage.
Are you ready?
Yes! Here's what it's like to be a sitting duck while 200 pounds of Mike Adamle are hurtling at you at approximately 35 miles an hour. Fortunately for me, Mike is a lousy aim.
And that's only because, Todd, you have a wife and kids. In all seriousness, though, body weight does play an important role in this event. Both Zimbob Schwartz and Susan Farwell weigh about the same, but because of the velocity generated from the swing, both women will weigh about 3 times that amount by the time they reach the pedestal and the Gladiator.
Both contenders will swing simultaneously in an attempt to knock the Gladiator off the pedestal. If successful, they will get 3 points. There will be 3 separate attempts, and if the contender is able to knock the Gladiator off all 3 times, they'll get a bonus point for a total of 10. Both Blaze and Gold are ready.
Zimbob on your left, Susan on your right, and here they come. Susan Farwell knocks Gold off the pedestal, but Blaze stays up top.
I'm surprised at that because Gold is a lot bigger than Blaze. It appears here on the replay that Susan was able to get herself compact in such a situation that she knocked Gold off of her balance and she couldn't stay on the pedestal.
Zimbob, on the other hand, might have flinched a bit, Todd. She was not as precise, not as compact, and unable to knock Blaze off, but she'll get another chance.
Well, the strategy didn't work, so I'm going to try something else now.
And that is?
Well, I'll just let you know if I get her off, I'll tell you.
We're all a tremble with anticipation.
Yeah, I bet.
Second attempt now for both Zimbob and Susan. Zap is one of the new gladiators atop the pedestal.
3, 2, 1.
She'll be going against Zimbob. Here they come. A lot of energy created, and both Blaze and Zap go down. Well, you promised us you'd tell us the secret now.
Well, I just tried to hit her head on. I was turning a little bit. I tried to go in straight, and I mean, Zap's really big, so I feel really happy I got her off.
Okay, one more shot. Go get him.
Thanks.
One more shot indeed as Zap moves over to take on Susan and Gold remounts to take on Zimbob. Susan Farwell has been very successful so far, heading for the hat trick, she hopes, to get 3 straight.
3, 2, 1.
Zimbob unable to knock out Gold, but Susan Farwell does indeed get the hat trick. She gets 3 in a row.
Now let's put you in the driver's seat. Here's what Susan Farwell saw. And Zap, well, she never had a chance.
Zimbob, on the other hand, was not able to get all of her body into Gold, and Gold is a sturdy young lady, as she witnesses right there, deflecting Zimbob and staying on top. Susan gets 10 points and Zimbob 3, and now the score after 4 events is Susan 20 and Zimbob 11.
Still to come on American Gladiators, the Gladiators and the contenders will lock horns and break through and conquer. Coming up next, the men's turn at Human Cannonball. Welcome back to Universal Studios Hollywood, where the contenders and gladiators are ready for Human Cannonball. After 3 events, J.C. Love Jordan has a 6-point lead on Richard Seymour. Their opponents in this first swing in Human Cannonball will be Titan and Nitro.
You know, Titan is ominous looking, isn't he? I mean, there's 280 pounds plus, and I have to think that both Richard Seymour and J.C. Love Jordan are going to have their work cut out for them.
Well, Nitro's no slouch either. Richard on the left, J.C. on the right, and here they come. 2 big jolts. Titan doesn't move. Nitro tried to hang on, but could not. Richard Seymour didn't hit Nitro as flush as he would like to, but it was good enough to knock Nitro down.
On the other rope, JC comes in with all his force, knees up, but it isn't enough to budge the big man.
Titan, you are getting the hang of this.
Yes, I am, and I'm loving it. We've gone through it, and the more you go through this game, the more that the Gladiator gets a chance to plan a little bit of strategy. And I think the more we go through it, the better we're going to get at it.
Okay, congratulations. Your forklift waits you. Get up there on that pedestal.
It should be noted here that all 3 gladiators that are competing are going to be rotated in such a way that each of the contenders will get a chance at all 3 gladiators. Here's Richard now lined up to go against Titan and JC against Laser.
Seymour on the left, Jordan on the right. JC doesn't get the job done, but Richard takes the measure of mighty Titan. And he did so even though Titan may have stretched the parameters of fair play by hanging on, but he did not deter Seymour.
Richard, you made up a lot of ground. You're tied now. If you're able to knock off the infamous Laser, you could go into the lead.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do. I'll just keep my same strategy, hopefully, and we'll see what happens.
Laser looks awfully tough. He's got a little bit of a cult following. Does that bother you at all?
No, he's got good balance and he's strong, yeah. So I just have to give it my all.
All right, good luck to you. JC, you lost a few points there. You know, you got a last chance here with Nitro. You got to knock him off to keep the lead.
Well, I can only hope that I can create enough velocity to knock him off. If I can't be successful this time, I'll have to push a little harder on the next few events.
Come on, man. You got to reach back to those running back days. Get it all together. Put it all in one spot. What do you think?
We'll see what happens.
Good luck to you.
Thanks.
JC talking about pushing a little harder. The fans actually pulling for the Gladiators. Nitro and Laser have developed quite the following.
Well, we'll see how long the fans' memory is once this event is over with.
Third and final attempt for Richard Seymour and JC Love Jordan.
Richard was unable to get Laser off, and his fans cheer wildly. On the other side, JC was able to knock off Nitro to get some much-needed points. Here's JC coming down the rope in his final attempt. Nitro leans into him, but he isn't able to keep his feet. On the other end, Richard coming with all his might with a big yell, but nonetheless, Laser hangs in there tough with a low center of gravity and maintains his balance.
Laser, we are going to have to call you the Baron of Balance. Nothing shakes you up there.
Well, I think it takes a lot of strength in the legs, and I got real low. They're good competitors, but that's why we're called the American Gladiators.
There is some question, however, that you may have held on to the pedestal for a moment there. Did you?
I did hold on when he swung back. Thought he was going to come back. I didn't want to get thrown down on the way back, so I just held on. I don't know if that's against the rules or not, but we'll see what the verdict is.
Can you explain this phenomenon that is taking place? I mean, people love you.
I don't know, but hey, you guys are the best crowd we've had yet.
The best of yet, he's an honest man. And with his 6-3 win in Human Cannonball, Richard Seymour narrows the gap after 4 events on JC Love Jordan. Now here's Todd with an explanation of the next confrontation.
For an event that involves the intricate skills of both football and wrestling, we welcome you now to Breakthrough and Conquer.
With the football tucked under the arm of the young lady, she will attempt in the first part, the breakthrough, to score a touchdown through lace. If she was able to do that, she will score 5 points, at which point she goes into the conquer circle against Blaze, where she's able to knock her out within the 10-second time limit. She will score another 5. After 4 events, the score is Susan 20 and Zimbob 11.
Stay away from the head now. Ready?
Susan Farwell up first. Not much room to operate and not much time to think. It's got to be an instinctive kind of thing. But Lace brings Susan Farwell down before she can cross the goal line. So no points for her in breakthrough. Now it's on to the conquer ring. As you mentioned, Todd, she has to knock Blaze out of that circle, any part of her body, within a 10-second time period.
And this has turned into a real grapple here, right on the edge, where Susan's pulling almost anything to get her outside of the circle to get that 5 points. And she did. Her hair was too long.
Whatever it takes to win, and Susan Farwell earns 5 points.
And Blaze has to rearrange her coif as Zimbob gets ready with the football tucked under her arm to do the first part of the breakthrough.
Love that look of determination.
You know, Lace may not be the most ominous physical presence out here, but I know for a fact that she takes great pride in being successful in this event, although I must confess to you, Mike, that stance is not making anybody forget Lawrence Taylor.
Here comes Zimbob and Lace. I'll tell you what, she doesn't look like a middle linebacker, but she hits like one. Zimbob is down. It appears she may have hurt her elbow once again. She gets her legs tangled up with Lace, and that was it. No points there, but she's back on her feet for conquer.
Mike, Zimbob continues to display the resiliency she has exhibited throughout the competition, but I think that last hit took a little bit out of her. She continues to pursue Blaze, but isn't able to hold on to her, and she's going to run out of time. Give Blaze credit here, but the fact is that Zimbob is tired and dejected, and she can't be, Mike, at her best. She has to be in a lot of pain at this point in the competition.
You are proof positive that it never pays to mess with Blaze.
That's right. That's why they call me Blaze. I put you in a daze.
You know, Samson had legendary strength because of his hair, and I love yours. Is there some power in these things?
Yes. Never cut it.
Never cut it. All right, Blaze. Way to go.
So while Delilah heads off to the locker room and Lace plays to the crowd, we'll recap the breakthrough and conquer where Susan was able to score 5 points and Zimbob unable to score. Now Susan with a commanding lead of 25 points to Zimbabwe's 11 after 5 events.
Now, Todd, after 4 events in the men's competition, J.C. Love Jordan with a 3-point lead over Richard Seymour. Now, J.C. appears to have a perfect body for breakthrough and conquer. He's got a football player's physique. Richard Seymour, more the angular wide receiver type at 6'2", 174. J.C. played for 4 years under Hayden Fry at the University of Iowa.
But Laser looks very determined in his 3-point stance. Oh, sweet move by J.C., but it wasn't enough. Laser was able to take him down despite that 360 move, and so J.C. will score no points in the breakthrough, and now in the conquer he has to take on Gemini.
And this is going to be a real difficult task because J.C. is giving away about 65 pounds to Gemini, and it appears that J.C. may have jammed his shoulder. That conquer surface, not the softest thing in the world, Todd.
Well, the combination of the surface and the fact that he ran into an immovable object, it was evident that Gemini, with his experience and his superior weight, was not going to be moved outside of that circle.
And because J.C. failed to score, a golden opportunity now for Richard Seymour. He is yet to lead throughout this competition, but this is his big chance.
Well, it's not going to happen in the breakthrough part of the competition, Mike, because of the fact that whatever Richard had to offer Laser, he was not fooled. Now he faces the formidable task of trying to move Gemini out of the conquer circle.
And again, you can see the great size disparity between these two men. Gemini obviously much stronger as well. Gemini moving extremely well to his right, to his left. He controlled Richard Seymour's head. And Gemini and Laser, as they did J.C. Love Jordan, they shut out Richard Seymour.
And I can't help but think that laser fever behind me is affecting you. You're real tough out there.
Thanks. I think I got laser power right over there and here. And I think we got some good contenders tonight. And I think the American Gladiators were going to pull through each time. And Gemini and both of us. And Nitro and Titan, we did a heck of a job.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gemini, you got a shutout. And I have to think that that's got to be tough for you. I don't know if you ever grappled during your days, but it's got to be awfully tough to stay in that circle, but you did it twice.
Yeah, it is tough, but the object, put yourself on the offense as opposed to the defense. They're trying to get us out, but don't wrestle defensively, wrestle offensively, and therefore you throw their timing off as far as trying to get you off the mat. That's what I was doing.
You know, if these two guys are pitchers right now, their ERA for this last contest is 0-0-0. Awfully good.
And because neither contender scored in breakthrough and conquer, the standings after 5 events remain the same. J.C. Love Jordan with a 3-point lead. Still to come, the Eliminator, but coming up next, the Joust. We are back, Universal Studios Hollywood, and let us set the stage for the women's Joust. After 5 events, Susan Farwell with a 25-11 lead over Zimbab Schwartz.
And Zimbab is about to match pugil sticks with Zap, and from my vantage point, Mike, this looks like a little bit of a mismatch. But Zimbab is game. She's hanging in there despite some terrible shots to the head from Zap.
Well, I tell you, if we had a punch-o-meter right now, Zap, the early leader, about 10-1.
Well, it looks like all that Zimbab's trying to do is survive. She's pushing Zap, but she can't seem to land any blows, where Zap's just about to get her off.
Woo.
Oh, what a shot. Oh, one shot. Oh, no! She got Zap off of there. I can't believe it.
Todd, I think Zap just ran out of energy.
I think you're right, and there it is right there. Zap's giving her her due. She points to her and laughs.
And the crowd really ate that up.
Without a doubt, this has got to be the happiest Zimbab has been throughout this entire competition, Mike. It appears to me that she's just taking a beating.
Hey, forget about the thriller in Manila, Frazier and Ali. How about Zimbab, Schwartz, and Zap? Unbelievable. You must have traded. Yeah. Your philosophy must have been, I'll take the beating and just wait for that last shot, and that's exactly what happened.
I think my jaws do so great. I take quite a few right there. And it
According to our unofficial punch stat, Zap landed about 35 blows. You landed 2.
I was just trying to knock her off. I was hoping she'd push herself off.
Well, Zimbab, you got some points and you're back in the hunt. Congratulations. Let's give her a huge hand.
Mike, if there were 3 judges' cards at this point, you'd have to say that Zap was way ahead on points. Look at those legs. In boxing parlance, I believe they call that queer streak. And blow after blow is raining down on Zimbab's head. But she's able to right herself, get herself up despite the blows to the face. And right at this point, she's going to catch one right on the back of Zap, push her off balance, get her on the buttocks, and get the knockout.
Susan Farwell must be thinking, how do I top that act? She can only hope that Zimbob stole a little of Zap's zip.
And also hope that Zap isn't looking for revenge. Zap's clobbering the backside. Susan loses her grip, and off she goes. She lost her grip on the pugil stick and wasn't able to stay on the platform. And Susan's very disappointed, as we can see right here. She takes the helmet off and flings it to the ground, very disgruntled over losing those points.
And a shot now from our overhead camera. Zap with the shot to the head, and then a shot to, well, the derriere, and that was it for Susan Farwell. So a startling turn of events after the joust. Zimbob coming into this event trailed by 14. Now she trails by only 4 after 6 events. Now in the men's competition, here's the way things stand between J.C. Love Jordan and Richard Seymour. J.C. with a 3-point lead. It's their turn to joust, and they draw Titan.
This can't be the easiest task in the world. They're looking at 280 pounds of Gladiator, and to knock him off is going to take something special. And obviously J.C. didn't have it as Titan makes short work of J.C. Love Jordan.
Well, Todd, I can only go back to the Conquer portion of Breakthrough and Conquer when J.C. Love Jordan jammed his shoulder. Perhaps it affected him there in the joust. Now it's Richard Seymour's turn. He has a chance to take the lead.
On the whistle.
Boom, boom, boom.
You know, I think that Richard's skills in boxing are going to serve him well. He's able to make some decisions here that are going to help him, and you know, the thrust, and parry that is inherent in this sport should help him out. He's hanging in there against Titan, which really is a surprise.
Well, Titan almost had him off there about 10 seconds ago, but he's regained his balance. Again, he's in trouble.
Well, Mike, we're talking about a 100-pound disparity, so Richard hanging in there is a victory in and of
Look
itself. Holy cow, he did it! And he throws the pugil stick up in the air. Boy, is he excited.
He did the roll-a-dope during assault. Now he does a front flip off the pedestal.
Yeah, but he's going to have to talk to his choreographer. He's got to get a new move.
Hey, if it works, why not? Richard training to become a member of America's Olympic boxing team in '92, demonstrating his pugilistic skills here with 3 straight shots to Titan's head before Titan ever found out what hit him. But there, Richard loses control of his pugil stick and nearly lost control of his balance, but what a save, and that earned him the victory over Titan.
Well, if you wanted Hearns and Hagler, too, this could have been it. I mean, you had to look up at him and think to yourself, my goodness, how am I going to get this nearly 300-pound man off of here? But you did it.
Well, you know, I'm used to taking shots to the head, you know, so it was feeling pretty good.
Well, Marlon Brando, he's not, but he is a winner. Congratulations to you, partner.
And he has taken a lead over J.C. Love Jordan. Coming up next, the final event, however, it's called the Eliminator. Stay with us. Welcome back to Universal Studios Hollywood. The fans are ready, and the contenders are ready for the final event called the Eliminator. An obstacle course of sorts, and it all begins right here. Contenders will compete side by side and roll these balls up the ramp. From there, they'll have to cross this balance beam. The Gladiators will be trying to knock the contenders off with medicine balls. And then the fun really begins. A set of commando lines have to be negotiated. From there, it's across a barrier in the swing for life. And then a decision has to be made. Which corridor to take? Behind 3 of those stars lie Gladiators.
Zimbob, after your tremendous joust, you've pulled within 4 points. Any special strategy here because you've got a shot at it?
I really got to get through that. The joust points helped me a lot, and I'm just going to try and do my best on this and get enough points to go on.
Time to let it all hang out.
Yeah, just about.
You know, your partner over here has become somewhat of a crowd favorite. Do you feel the pressure of that?
I feel a little bit of pressure, but so long as I can get past that balance beam there, I think we'll do okay.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Best of luck to both of you.
Thanks.
Those 4 points that Zimbob trails by translates to 2 seconds, and that's how much she would need to win by to beat Susan Farwell and advance to the quarterfinals. Zimbob in the blue, Susan Farwell in the red. It all comes down to this. Who's the quickest and who's the best?
And 2 seconds is nothing in the Eliminator, Mike. That's absolutely nothing. It's going to be an even race.
Both Zimbob and Susan go down. That will cost them in penalty points. They climb their way back up, now across the commando lines.
Zimbob gets the ropes first, and it appears that Susan's having a little bit of a problem. That was strung a little bit high for her, but she hangs in there, and she's making her way along, slowly but surely.
In balance, very precarious here.
Zimbob almost slipped off there. It's tough. That's even narrower than the balance beam, that bottom rope.
Both contenders virtually side by side, but Zimbob across the swing for life first and stumbles there a bit. Works her way around the cones and now through the right barrier. Does she pick it? No. Gold is waiting for her.
Gold's a tough customer. She's holding her up, and it's just enough for Susan to bust through and win.
So Susan Farwell advances to the quarterfinals. Kind of surprising because Zimbob Schwartz, who is down right now and in obvious pain, she needed to win by more than 2 seconds. Looked like she had the necessary cushion, but Gold did a marvelous job of impeding her progress. Meanwhile, Susan was able to get by a little quicker past Blaze. Thus the victory.
Zimbob, how's it feel? I know you're in some pain, but you're still smiling. What's the word? You're going to be all right?
I'll be fine. It's just really hurts like hell right now.
You competed like crazy, and I got to ask you something despite all this pain and anguish. Everybody's dying to know where the name Zimbob came from.
Long story. It's a long story.
It's an hour show, babe.
Well, I know. I can't do it in an hour. Sorry.
All right. I guess we're going to have to wait. Maybe if she can make it to the quarterfinals, we'll find out.
Well, throughout this competition, Zimbob has been able to bounce back many times. Let's hope she has one comeback left.
Mike, she has been a game competitor indeed. Now on the men's side, Richard Seymour leads by 7 points, and J.C. Love Jordan needs to make it up with a 3.5-second victory here in the Eliminator.
Richard Seymour in the blue, J.C. in the red, and he's having a dickens of a time getting that ball up the ramp. That'll cost him in penalty points. Both men scampering across the balance beam successfully, now across the commando lines.
Mike, it appeared that J.C. hesitated a little bit. It's as if he had to jump for the top rope, and as a result, Richard has a big lead at this point in the competition.
Makes it easily over the barrier in the swing for life, now weaving his way through the colored cones. J.C. not as fortunate, and Richard again fortunate that no Gladiator was standing behind that barrier.
Well, it just wasn't meant to be for J.C. right from the beginning. Missing the balls to the last competition, this was a struggle for him all the way.
Richard, you advanced to the quarterfinals by virtue of some outstanding performances. I bring to mind again the performance in the joust and then the Eliminator where everything fell into place for you.
Yeah, it did. I just tried to get a point lead, and boy, it's a hard points earned, I'll tell you.
Did you overestimate this or underestimate this now that you can look back on the 7 events?
Oh, I see this on TV and it looks easy, but boy, when you get out here, no way.
Okay, Richard, congratulations. You're on to the quarterfinals.
Thank you.
On a more somber note, it appears that Zimbob Schwartz may have seriously injured her right foot. It happened right here after going over the barrier in the swing for life. Her right foot actually buckled underneath her as she stepped off the mat. Watch again, and there you can see that she may have indeed done some damage. She is currently under a trainer's care and is being taken for x-rays. So the final standings look like this. Richard Seymour with an 86-43 victory over J.C. Love Jordan. He'll advance to the quarterfinals. And in the women's side of the ledger, Susan Farwell 25-21 over Zimbob Schwartz.